Man, my computer's slow. Let me go get my antivirus real fast. Oh, which to choose, Urethra! I got it, babe. I know what the next episode's gonna be, and it's not just gonna be another short game review.
What, antiviruses?
No, random utilities and software for game consoles.
Like hacking tools?
Okay, after the intro, I'll explain what I'm talking about. Software. You know what software is. You're using it right now. You're on a web browser of some kind, whether that be on the YouTube app or Chrome on PC. But did you know software actually released on game consoles? I bet you knew that. Because if you go to your Xbox One or your PS4s, you'd find fucking YouTube and Netflix on there. But I'm not going to be talking about those. I'm going to be personally talking about the software that released before those and are actually interesting to talk about. Now here's something really funny about this. It's hard to find software released for consoles, because if you just Google PS1 utility software, you get modding tools. So I went through the pain and torture that is modern Google to find this random fucking utility that released on disc or cartridge, or fuck, even sometimes digital. And, oh, wait, give me a sec real fast. I should note, I'm poor. Shocker, I know. So I don't have a lot of these. I would like to revisit this video in the future, but as of right now, almost all of these are emulated. Not all of them, but almost all of them. The Atari 2600 is interesting, I think. Look at this Pac-Man, it's fucked up. But anyway, the first utility cartridge on our list is the Starpath Supercharger for the Atari 2600. This is a cartridge that you would plug into the Atari, and it has like a little aux cable thing, so you can plug into a goddamn cassette player to play, I don't know, slightly more advanced games. Now, this isn't really a utility as more of a RAM expansion cartridge, kind of like what the Nintendo 64 got for Donkey Kong 64, but way more inconvenient, especially for me, since there isn't like an easy ROM set for these, so I ended up downloading this dude's entire fucking Atari collection. Anyway, let's try the first game, called The Official Frogger, which means this Frogger is a fucking fake. Yeah, it's definitely a better looking Frogger. It also has music during gameplay, which is surprisingly really rare for Atari games. Like, with the original Frogger, it would just play a song and then you would have to wait through that before you can actually start playing. While this one, it plays Yankee Doodle while riding on a fucking log. Alright, next up, Rabbit Transit. Wikipedia has nothing to say about this game, so hopefully I might. Overall, this game seems really simple. You're a rabbit hopping around and shit. I don't really like the controls, they're kind of confusing, but you're just going down to eat flowers. There's also a turtle down here. I wonder what happens if you touch that turtle. I'm at a loss for fucking words. I can see why Wikipedia didn't have shit to say about this game. You're a bunny rabbit that hops onto a turtle to go to a knockoff version of Q*bert where a kid runs by and throws fucking diamonds of hyper death at you. And after all of that, your bunny has sex and gets babies. And then you do it all again.
Don't forget, you have a lot more stuff to look at.
You're right, I stayed on this topic for a tad bit too long. Next up is one that I can't exactly show you. That's basic programming for Atari. And what I think is really neat is that there's a thrift store in Springfield that actually has, I think, a complete in-box copy of it for like $50. Fuck no, but I mean, it's kind of neat to see in person. Anyway, you need a keyboard to use it. I did not fucking know the Atari had keyboards. And I mean, look at this fucking keyboard. This thing has more in common with a damn typewriter. Now, sadly, I cannot show you basic programming for Atari 2600. That's because I do not have a single goddamn clue on how to code in BASIC. I only know Python. So, fuck no, I'm not going to show you, and I'm not going to learn for a damn Atari game. And actually, what's kind of funny is that the NES, or at least the Famicom, also had basic programming. Which I'm not going to look at, because it's not going to be that interesting.
Now for stuff I can actually show you. Here's the NES test cartridge. That was fun, right? I think the most notable thing is how I 100%ed the achievements on a fucking test cartridge. There's also another one for just a controller.
Yep, that one fucking works!
And I guess for the Super Nintendo, the closest would probably be Mario Paint.
Isn't Mario Paint classified as a game?
Not really, because you're drawing. Unless you count that fucking mosquito game. But personally, I see that more as target practice than a video game.
Mario Paint is actually probably the closest one to a game. And of course, there's another test program to see if your Super Nintendo works properly. There's also this unreleased, like, fucking taxpayer software for the SNES. I don't exactly remember what it was, because my memory of this cartridge is from a Chadtronic reaction video. There's also the Satellaview, which could kind of count. Now, the Satellaview isn't really on topic with what we're talking about, because a lot of it is actual fucking video games when they fucking work. Yeah, that BS does stand for something. It stands for bullshit. Like this BS Mario Collection, which is supposed to just be Mario Brothers 3. You had to wait 5 minutes, and then the fucking counter would go back to 2 minutes. I restarted, it waited 1 more minute, nothing happened, and then while I was writing this fucking script, the game started, and then I remembered that I hate Mario 3, especially the Super Nintendo version, but all that just to play, like, fucking 3 levels. It's literally easier for me to set up my actual Super Nintendo, put in Mario All-Stars, and play Mario 3 that way. Sorry, I got off topic. It's just this thing is fucking stupid. How does this fall under utility software? I guess if you put the cartridge in by itself, it's like a little walk-around thing, but that's about it. Of course, Sega had something kind of similar with Sega Channel. And speaking of the Sega Genesis, it has its own paint program, which is the end of that story. I'll get to that when I play every Sonic game. There's also the Miracle Piano, which I completely forgot about during the NES section, which is just a fucking piano. I couldn't even imagine trying to emulate something like this. Now, the Nintendo 64, or at least the 64DD, no Nintendo, has the Mario Artist series of games, which is Mario Paint if it was a lot more fucking cooler, and if you could make models. Genuinely, these are awesome to fuck around with. And you can also have multiplayer for a fucking art program, which only plays as showed off.
Now, we're starting to get into territory that I'm a lot more familiar with, and that I actually probably own some of these things. So why don't we start with the stuff that I do not own?
Now, the PlayStation had a lot, but I think one of the most interesting ones is the RPG makers that came out. I'm not joking. You could make RPGs on PlayStation. And this trend never died out, by the way. RPG Maker released on PlayStation 1, 2 of them released on PlayStation 2. I'm not counting the Japanese RPG makers, by the way, for PlayStation. The PS3 and PS Vita just straight up skipped out on it. The PS4 and Switch got RPG Maker MV, which you definitely know because of a little game called fucking Amori was made using it. But not only that, the Coffin of Andy and Lele was also made in MV. And also, for some reason, Google says it was made in RPG Maker 2003. That's straight up a lie. If you go into the files, you can literally find evidence that Coffin of Andy and Lele was made using MV. Now, I'm just going to include all the RPG makers here because there's so goddamn many of them. And of course, with that, I'm skipping some of them. Like, obviously, I can't do the Switch or PS4 RPG maker. And my other excuse is that I'm too fucking lazy to download the ROMs for the Super Nintendo and 3DS RPG makers. But with that, I also do want to say there was a Game Boy RPG maker. That is a fucking crazy concept to me. Again, I'm sorry I can't talk about every RPG maker. Like RPG Maker with PS5.
Anyway, first up is RPG Maker for the original PlayStation.
This fucking sucks. When you have an analog controller plugged in, nothing works. So you have to make sure you're using the digital PS1 controller, which is awesome. Second, I can't figure out how to quit out of the fucking game. I couldn't figure out how to save either. And the shitty test game that I made, I couldn't figure out how to fucking exit it. And third, this is probably the worst way to make graphics for any game.
Genuinely,
Silas.
this is probably one of the
Silas.
worst pieces of software I've ever used.
Silas,
What?
what's with the hat?
What's with your hat?
Why are you all of a sudden wearing a hat?
Oh, this hat is magic and contains all my power. You ever play a Mario game and how he gets weaker without his hat? That's why.
Okay, go back to whatever you're talking about. I just wanted to know about the hat.
Thank you. Anyways,
The shitty little test game that I did make features everyone's favorite joke, Coca-Cola and an 8-ball.
and for all the people who are scared that there's not enough diversity in my show,
The 8-ball is female.
just for the girlies, because I love women.
There's also RPG Maker on DS. I'm not even gonna try. And then there's also the PS2 RPG Makers. First up, RPG Maker 2.
This one's just like a billion menus, and I couldn't figure out how to do anything except for change the shirt color of the chef.
And RPG Maker 3. I'm in the exact same boat. For some reason, this was straight up next to impossible to translate onto a fucking console back then.
And actually, there's another program that's like that was put on PlayStation 1 called that.
Which is like RPG Maker, but for shoot-em-up games. AKA, you bet someone probably put Toho Project on this bitch.
And that someone was me. Just how I remember Toho.
Anyway, this is just way better than that shitty RPG Maker for PlayStation. I don't know, it's just the menus are not as complicated for me. Of course, I had a handful of hiccups, like making the player sprite a little too big, so I had to scale it back. And I mean, I actually put time and effort into my sprites in this one, and it was fun to learn.
So if you have time to waste, honestly, I'd recommend fucking around with this program to make your own shoot-em-ups. And what's also pretty nice is that all the menus are in English.
My only problem is that saving takes like 3 fucking years, but if you're on emulator, you can just speed that shit up. Some of the buttons don't explain what they do, but you can easily learn by fucking around. And the fucking intro had an image of a mouse, but I couldn't get the mouse input to work, so this game fucking lied to me. And to close off the PS1 section, there is Net Eurosi, which is a PlayStation equivalent of the Xbox 360 indie game store. Pretty much a lot of demo discs would just come with these games. Cat Icarus actually has a really good video about a bunch of Net Eurosi games, but for me, it's too much to get into right now. Maybe some other episode I'll look at it.
Are you done with the PS1 yet?
Not quite. The PlayStation 1 let you make music.
Yeah, the MTV music generator. Now sadly, I don't have a single goddamn clue on how to make music, so maybe this program might help me. I think this is the best music I've ever made in my entire life. That isn't that fucking Windows XP song bullshit that I made in like 2020, which in case you haven't heard it, I'll play it as the background music.
Now we're on something that I can actually show you the physical discs of. That being the Dreamcast web browsers, which do not work anymore.
As I have no way of hooking up my Dreamcast to the internet, and have no plans on trying to get that all sorted out. These are really useless to me. I don't know why I got both of these discs. And actually, fun fact, Web Browser 2 was the first ever time I actually came across a Dreamcast game in a thrift store. I mean, I can show you what happens when I pop these into my console, though. I mean, I don't really know what you were expecting me to say. It's nice that I can see how the fucking cursor used to move. This webpage on the 2.0 version has a fucking black void underneath it. There was also a bunch of other versions of these around the world, like the Dream Passports, which had like 4 different versions in Japan. Also, Sega tried a handful of times to get karaoke working. Like, they had one for the Mega CD, which is the European Sega CD, and the Dreamcast in Japan. I don't think we ever got these goddamn karaoke systems, which is kind of sad, but I mean, it's fucking karaoke.
Now, onto the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox era.
Which first up being this knockoff Game Boy player that I have footage of. This goddamn thing is kind of neat, huh? Comes with a bunch of Game Boy Advance cheats. It also doesn't play original Game Boy games. Just get a regular Game Boy player at that point.
There's also cheat devices, but I personally don't have any footage of them. But luckily, does. So I'm just going to steal his footage real fast.
Game Sharks and action replays. Why did I not talk about these things? Because I can't fucking use them. The Game Shark for PS2 requires a memory card, so that's already out of the picture. And the GameCube cheat devices, I could just boot up Dolphin and play with cheats. And since we're already on this topic of the PS2, it also had a lot of utility discs.
You know what kind of sucks? I almost could have had the PlayStation 2 Internet Utility Startup disc. But the game store that had it, that is really close to my house, by the way, apparently a company came in and bought every fucking video game they had in there, so now they just straight up do not carry games anymore.
Well, that sucks. It would have been nice to have a game store near you.
Yeah, but sadly, all they carry now is just Pokemon and D&D shit. 2 things I could not give 2 fucks about.
But luckily, I can burn these onto a disc. But unluckily, I can't do anything with these. Even PlayStation 2 Linux, because of course the PlayStation 2 had Linux, and it's one of the more expensive items for the fucking console. Now, the background footage is Michael MJD, because I can't use it. Why?
Probably because it requires a keyboard, a mouse, a VGA adapter, which, by the way, none of my TVs have VGA, and a fucking hard drive.
Do you want to know how outdated VGA is? This is my old Windows 8 machine. I have probably had that computer since at least 2014, definitely before Windows 10 became a thing. This had VGA. I no longer have this computer, which sucks. Also, this Little Big Planet 3 video, that TV had VGA input.
And of course, the PS2 had stuff like iToy Chat, which was pretty much just Skype, except it doesn't work anymore, and did not release in North America. Instead, what we got was actual fucking Skype on the PlayStation Portable.
There is also, I shit you not, an Initial D typing trainer. What in the fuck? It kind of reminds me of Mario Teaches Typing, but with anime. Or that stupid fucking Bluetooth keyboard shit that came with a Pokemon DS game. Now, how about the original Xbox?
There's nothing. Unless you want to count the Xbox Live Startup Disc, there really isn't anything for the original Xbox that I could find personally.
Now, the PSP had very little stuff, but still a few things, like Beaterator, which was actually made by Rockstar, which is interesting, and this Japan-only video editing software for the PSP. Now, this next topic easily falls under this category, the UMD movies. Of course, these are more of a video format than a utility, but I mean, that's the most I got. A lot of it was digital only, but the problem with the digital only utilities is that they're not as fun to talk about, or it's just fucking Skype for PSP.
Now, this next generation's a lot more difficult to talk about because we're moving more into the digital era than, physical shit. So a lot of physical utility discs and cartridges didn't really come out.
Like the PlayStation 3 and the Play Beyond Blu-ray, which barely counts, as I'm pretty sure this works in any Blu-ray player. But you also had the PlayStation 3 and Wii Netflix discs, which I've already talked about in the past. But the video sucks, so let me tell you the story on why these discs even exist in the first place.
So during the time period, Netflix struck a deal with Microsoft to put Netflix digitally on Microsoft and nowhere else, but that only accounted for digital. So while PlayStation 3 and Wii users did not have a digital Netflix, Netflix still could put their service on them. So what they did pretty much was release physical discs that you put into the console to load into Netflix, until eventually Netflix was just allowed to have Netflix on the PlayStation 3 and Wii digitally. Did any of that make any sense? No, because this was fucking stupid. I don't know why Microsoft had the exclusive rights to have digital Netflix, but I guess they just kind of fucking did.
And actually, fun fact, there's a really rare Brazilian PlayStation 2 version of the disc, because Brazil is like 50 years back. Did you know the Sega Master System is still getting fucking made over there?
Now, of course, these discs do not work anymore. And I actually have an old video of me trying these discs out, but that video sucks ass, so I'm just going to show what happens when you try to boot these up nowadays.
Yeah, that's about it. Of course, neither one works because you could just download the better Netflix that's on those storefronts, at least for that time period. I don't think those Netflix work either anymore. Now, for the PlayStation 2 Netflix, I'm pretty sure that bitch never worked in the first place.
Are you almost done?
I'm getting close. After I'm done talking about the 360 and Wii, I'll pretty much just have cleanup to do.
The 360 doesn't have much. I mean, do the 360 demo discs count? They have videos. Or what about Halo Waypoint, which you can connect to this fucking arcade machine? And I have gameplay footage of me playing this arcade machine. Or even the Halo 3 Essentials discs, which came with this collector's edition.
Yeah, these are the most interesting things that are on these discs. It's mainly just videos and gamer pictures. But of course, how could we forget the classic Collector's Edition second disc?
Most common with Bethesda games, these second discs usually come with DLC, or in Fables 2's case, concept art. And that's all they are. Just select the DLC you want and install them. We also have Xbox Live Labs, aka sit there and do fucking nothing. It has achievements, by the way. One of the achievements is to use that app for a total of 6 hours. Luckily, it's not all at once, but still, that's a ridiculous amount of time. And I'm pretty sure everyone who got that achievement just left their Xbox running for 6 hours.
Now, we're just going to get through the Wii and DS real fast because holy shit is there a lot of them. And the DS ones, I can barely even use. So if you want a more comprehensive video about these, I don't know, go bug fucking Melody No Surname. I bet they have all of them, or at least a good majority of them.
Anyway, for the Wii, you have stuff like Game Sound Station, which has been shut down, and has this cute little anime character by the name of Nanashi. I love her so much that I ripped her sprites and reconstructed her. Anyway, apparently what this was like the Japanese equivalent to Spotify. Like, they had soundtracks, drama, and vocal CDs related to video games, and if you paid, you could listen to over 1,000 songs. There's also Happy Holidays Christmas and Happy Holidays Halloween. Pretty much the deal with these, they're just postcards. You just make postcards with these. The internet channels for the Wii and DS, you can go online, but these barely fucking worked. But surprisingly, to this day, the Wii one still works. I don't know about the DS one or the DSi one. And there's also a handful of, like, these really weird Wii shit, like Princess I, or AI, which apparently is just, like, a fucking digital manga that you could have bought. The Today and Tomorrow channel, which didn't even release here, and apparently is just like a horoscope thing. I don't know. There's also Wii Fit Body Check, which would be like, you send information to your doctor or something? What the fuck? And finally, we have this Raku. Jesus fucking Christ, that is a long-ass name. Especially since this is just a no-smoking program. And by program, I mean a visual novel. Yeah, almost like my no-smoking coach for the DS, which is a way more creative way to not stop smoking and more just piss me the fuck off.
You know, seeing the Ubisoft logo makes me want to smoke even more.
Speaking of the DS, it had like 14 different MP3 players, and I think they all used the GBA slot. And of course, how could you forget the fan favorites? Easy Piano, which is just straight up a fucking, like, 10-key piano, and FL Studio... Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Korg DS10.
Now, I know both of these have a lot more, and I mean a lot more, but I do not want to try and hunt down all of these. Luckily, the Wii and GameCube ones are actually really easy to find, because all you have to do is just go to the Dolphin Emulator Compatibility website, and just go into the utility genre, and you'll find them.
Now, the next generation doesn't have anything, or, well, they do. They're just not interesting to actually talk about. That's the Wii U, Xbox One, and PS4 and beyond. There isn't really much to talk about when it comes to these consoles, unless you're talking about the Switch. There was also the 3DS, which for $100 got you PDI check. And as you can tell, definitely wasn't supposed to be sold on the eShop. The Switch also has quite a handful of this type of stuff, like Nintendo Labo or Game Builder Garage. Yeah, those fall under that. And if we're counting those, I guess Dreams for PS4 would also count. And fuck it, why not throw the Switch 2 Welcome Tour in there as well?
What about the consoles that you missed?
Oh boy, there's quite a handful of consoles that I missed, and it's either because I wasn't thinking of them at the time, or it's because they really just don't have anything interesting.
The original Game Boy had stuff like the Game Boy camera, and I guess the Super Game Boy, even though that's more of a Super Nintendo thing, I'll still count it as a Game Boy utility. There's also the Pocket Sonar for fishing, and the Mobile Trainer, which was used for, like, checking emails and shit. The Game Boy Advance had the fucking e-reader, and that is the end of that sentence. The Xbox One also has whatever the fuck's going on here. And these have unobtainable achievements, except for one of them. And that one with obtainable achievements has an unattainable achievement, and it's fucking Stewie Griffin from Family Guy. I mean, do these things even fucking count? It's clearly someone just, like, testing out a bunch of bullshit.
And that is most of the stuff that I know of or found by looking up random bullshit. Now, I am definitely missing a lot of items. Like, I know I'm missing the U-Draw stuff, but still, everything in this video is all the things I can think of at the time of making this fucking video.
Why did you take so long talking about these utilities?
It's a very simple answer. I love dumb video game shit like this.
I love finding out about random junk, and I like collecting that random junk. Like, did I really need both Dreamcast web browsers or fucking Microsoft Office for Mac? No. But I still wanted them because I think they're interesting. Like, if I could have a giant collection of N-Gage and fucking Hyperscan or RCA Studio 2 games, I would love that. And I think these random utilities fit that bill perfectly.
And with that, I hope you enjoyed this. This episode was genuinely a pain in the ass to research and make because a bunch of shit kept going on while making this fucking episode. But if you have, like, any more, if you know any more, please tell me. Because, again, I would like to revisit this video idea in the future. But yeah, besides that, I hope you enjoyed this. And welcome to the new age of Call Me FDA.